Well, good evening, and welcome to the 40th annual meeting of the Worcester Regional Research Bureau. It's an exciting evening to celebrate the Research Bureau hitting middle-aged. I'd like to start by welcoming you all and thank you for your support. We appreciate you being here to celebrate the Bureau and hear from our first chair, George Tetler, and a panel of Worcester City managers for a reflection of Worcester and the legacy of the Worcester Regional Research Bureau. However, before we get to our program, we have a couple of items and business to attend to. One of the Bureau's former chairs, Sandy Dunn. Sandy, where are you? Come on, Sandy. I know you're here. There she is, right in the middle. Give her She deserves our special thanks and recognition since she shortly stepping down from her longtime role running the DCU Center. She's also be stepping down on our board, which I just found out tonight, and sadly, really sad about that. Sandy has been a steadfast supporter of the Research Bureau and a true friend to this organization. As this will be our last annual meeting with her at the DCU, we want to offer our deepest appreciation for her leadership, long-term support of the Bureau, and the offering a small token of esteem. Where's Eric kneeling? Oh, you already got it. You guys... Nice bouquet of roses, so thanks. Fran Madigan, he's a chair of the nomination committee, will be presenting the slate of nominees to our board. The slate was provided over email, but will also be presented on the screens. As he comes on stage, I'd also like to thank Fran, as well as Dr. Abraham Haddad and Melanie Bonsu for their leadership on the executive committee, since all three are stepping down after years of service. Thanks, Fran.
Thank you, Paul. I'll be brief. It's my pleasure to present the Research Bureau's proposed slate of officers, executive committee members, and new board members, as you can see on the screens. Also, it was included in an email sent to all the board members earlier today. Officers serving a one-year term: Eric Torcano as chair, John Irwin as vice chair, George Tetler as treasurer, and Dee Moscas as clerk. For our executive committee, we have 3 new members joining for a 3-year term: Chris Costu of Berkshire Bank, Barry Maloney of Worcester State University, and Abby Marsky from St. Caban. We thank Cola Akindele, Paul Kelly for renewing for a 3-year term, Katie Crockett for renewing for a 2-year term, and Roberta Bryan, Jochen Safeld, and Joshua Lee Smith as a renew for a 1-year term. The next slide shows those proposed to join the board of directors, including Pete Dunn, Paul LaValle, Patrick Maloney, Abby Marsky, Brian Westerlin, and Barbie Yanni. We thank all of them for their leadership in the community and for joining our board. I'd also like to recognize, who soon will become a member of our Chairperson's Council, Eric Torcano. Thank you to our many board members that have renewed their terms and those that are continuing to serve their terms. We appreciate your service. We'd also like to thank those that are stepping down from our board who are listed on the screens. We thank you for all of your support and insight. I'd like to ask for a motion to accept the slate as presented. Second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. I'm pleased to turn the program back to our new past chair, Paul Kelly.
Thanks, Fran. And definitely thank you for your service on the executive committee and the chair, and most recently the nominating committee chair. You really did a lot of work, so appreciate everything you did. This is easy. I'd like to turn it over to our presenting sponsor, a really close friend of mine, Chris Costa. So I'm very happy to have him up here from Berkshire Bank, who will officially welcome him in tonight. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Paul. You are a great friend. It's great to see you. Thank you to Paul Matthews and the staff for organizing this evening's event. Welcome to our city managers, past and present. Looking forward to hearing from you all. as panelists tonight. Also, welcome to everybody here. I think the program actually had Beth Minio, our regional president, speaking today. Unfortunately, she had a conflict and is not able to attend, but so I'm stepping in, so I apologize. We are very excited to be the presenting sponsor and be part of the positive change that's taking place in Greater Worcester, thanks to the important work of the Research Bureau. At Berkshire Bank, we are pleased to support the Research Bureau's mission to promote public debate, decision-making through independent, nonpartisan research and analysis of public policy issues. We are also like-minded organizations, both passionate about lifting up the communities we serve and investing in the central Massachusetts region. We help innovate businesses, grow jobs, improve the overall quality of life for people and places we care about most. Our team of experts is committed to building long-term relationships as trusted advisors in each client's financial journey, helping them to make financial decisions with clarity and confidence. Through exceptional personalized service, we combine our unique capabilities, expert guidance, and digital technologies to make banking available when and where our clients want it. It's why Newsweek named us one of the most trustworthy companies in America and one of America's best regional banks. It's partnerships like the one we have with the Bureau that ensure we stay closely connected to the communities and our clients have clear understanding of what their needs are and how we can help unlock their potential. With our recent merger, we became a division of Beacon Bank, meaning now we offer more, including a larger network of branches, greater lending power, a wider range of products and services, best-in-class technology, and elevated impact in communities that we serve that leverages the totality of resources that a larger organization can provide. We will roll out our Beacon Bank branding in the first quarter of next year. Best of all, the team you know and trust is staying the same. Thank you all once again for coming tonight to show your support for the difference the Research Bureau makes every day in our communities. And Sandy Dunn, say it ain't so. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Chris. We also thank Berkshire Bank and Beacon Bank, the new Beacon Bank. They have been very generous supporters of the Bureau for numerous of years. I mean, and they've been our presenting sponsors, so we're so grateful for their longtime support for the Bureau and the commitment of the entire Worcester community. So just want to congratulate our new board members. Welcome back to the many directors that renewed, and thank you to our directors that are coming off the board. As I rotate out of my chairmanship, I thank you all for the support, and I'm thrilled to stand here to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Research Bureau. This organization is a gem in the community and plays an important role in the civic life of Worcester. For 40 years, it has provided in-depth research and analysis of the pressing issues in the community. It works and dives deep into the data and builds on common factual understanding. It's a cutting-edge leader in the field of non-government research. The Worcester Regional Research Bureau continues to be recognized by its National Association for its work, often serving as trainers in other agencies across the country, and the technological, I can't even say that word, sorry guys, advancement implemented here in Worcester. They have won numerous awards, and Paul, how many awards you won this year? 6 in the last 3 awards, and a lot of this is all the technological advancements that they've made. It's also important to note that Worcester remains one of the few municipalities with this type of organization focused on local, regional issues. The only others in the government research associations are Boston, Chicago, New Orleans, and Philadelphia. It goes without saying that the size discrepancy is outstanding. And this is largely possible because of the generous financial contributions from everybody in this room. Thank you to today's sponsor for helping us to once again exceed our expectation. A special thanks again to Berkshire Bank, AbbVie, the Hanover Insurance Group, and Country Bank for the generous support. Thank you for all the research professional level sponsors, Consigli, the Eppinger family, Greenberg, Roosevelt, Cole, and Pistoli, Keolis Commuter Services, Mass Development, Massport, Mercantile Center, the Penta Legacy Fund, thanks Deb, and Polar Beverages. I want to recognize our supportive board of directors and our dedicated executive committee and our exceptional staff. And I really want to take time to thank them. Paul, Eric, where are you? Just Josh, and Anthony, wherever you guys are, you guys have done a great job putting this together. The Bureau has done some phenomenal work over the course of the year: school facilities, commuter rail, Prop 2.5, and much more. Paul will go into more details, but I encourage you to read through the annual report to learn more about these projects. I want to close my remarks with a call to action for all of you in this room who knows of and support the Worcester Regional Research Bureau. I invite you all to share the work, talk about our research, recommend the timely issues, and keep in touch with the Research Bureau. We value your engagement in the work, and we know that the organization is only as strong as the community that supports it. Now, to learn more about why you should do so, I'm happy to invite the Executive Director, CEO Paul Matthews, to the stage. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul, both for getting everyone seated and for helping usher this in and your 2 years of committed leadership. I'm honored to be here today as only the third executive director in the Bureau's 40 years, but I do want to just echo Paul's comments. While I'm here talking about the accomplishments or some of the highlights we've accomplished in the last year, it is really a reflection of all of you in this room and your support, and particularly my 3 colleagues who worked tirelessly, including AV today, name tags, and virtually everything else. So Eric, Josh, and Anthony deserve all the thanks about some of these details. Now, the 3 of us all serve the mission of the Bureau as laid out by our Articles of Incorporation and overseen by the Board and Executive Committee. We are to instruct the public as to the operational problems of Worcester through nonpartisan, non-political, and impartial research, and through the dissemination of that research both to the public and public officials. So here in our 40th year, we've continued to meet that mission, both on recurring and permanent priorities like municipal budgeting, school budgeting, our almanac, questions for the candidates, but also through using new techniques, new tools, and new resources not available to our predecessors. So as Paul pointed out, we've been very innovative in recent years, including using the city's 311 data, and full credit to Manager Batista for leading this effort even before he was manager. There were 250,000 requests for service over the last 3 years, and my colleagues went through all of them. Some of the interesting insights are there were 6,000 reports of uncollected trash, and interestingly, 2,000 reports on neighbors putting out trash early. So 1/3 of that is ratting out neighbors. So our work, however, does go beyond city limits. And it's important to note 20 years ago, this became regional under Roberta's leadership and the then board and executive committee, but we've really embodied that this year. We've embarked on a longstanding partnership with the Worcester Foundation and Pete Dunn with Worcester County Insights, a regional county data dashboard, and we've done a series of briefs, including on the economy, pointing out that over the last 20 years, our county jobs grew by 22%. Of that, financial activity jobs grew by 66% and healthcare jobs by 50%. We also looked at cannabis revenue for area towns in Worcester County. That went from 3 communities in FY19 to 23 communities last year. Now, unexpectedly, as I'm sure it's a shock, Worcester was number 1 in that by raising $1.6 million, only 6.7% of its excise taxes. The number 2 community, which is genuinely surprising, is Blackstone at $1 million, 42% of their excise taxes, and a pretty big portion of their $33 million municipal budget. We followed that up by looking at Proposition 2.5 and municipal decision-making by the 9 area towns around Worcester. Interestingly, a majority of Prop 2.5 override votes end in a loss. Only 31% succeed, and those are with small margins. Most notably, Boylston in '97 had a vote that passed by 5. So the lesson here, people, is every vote literally counts. We also looked at the city's proposal to exempt the Worcester police chief and deputies from civil service. That's a very innovative home rule. We did one report last year. We did a follow-up because, rather surprisingly, the legislature put an outside section in the Economic Development Bill allowing them to do that. So Worcester and another 23 communities were granted that green light, and there's a total of 65 communities statewide that exempt their chief and/or deputies. We also, as Paul mentioned, looked at school facility needs. Now, this was a departure for us. We did so last year, and I was proud to report the analysis on behalf of Worcester in what was needed on behalf of state funding. Mass Inc., our statewide partner, liked the report so much, they came to us and partnered and commissioned us to conduct an analysis on behalf of all the state cities, which shows a clear linkage with the state cities having some of the neediest schools and simultaneously some of the neediest students. And so that was released at the State House and was actually discussed yesterday at the Board of Education. So we're achieving traction to serve the city on that front, as well as commuter rail. I was just talking beforehand with former manager O'Brien about the value of commuter rail. And under Roberta's tenure 20 years ago, there was a pivotal report. For the first time since 2018, there was data available on station boardings. The Bureau was one of the first entities to analyze that data, showing that of the route here in Worcester-Framingham, if you look, the fact is 16% of the inbound riders originate at Worcester. It's the top origin point. Surprisingly, the second is Boston Landing. The third is Framingham. And if you look at the riders inbound, 45% of them are coming from Worcester to Framingham. So it clearly illustrates the value of the state's investment in '94 and since. And we're going to be following up with another report that we've been working closely with the city's MBTA working group, our municipal officials and legislators along the line. And even last week, the state, MassDOT and MBTA, asked us to go to the Alston working group to brief them. And we left with a room full of people converted that what they needed to do was get on commuter rail and come west instead of going east into the city of Boston. But none of this work would have been possible without all of you. And I am not going to name all the names in this report, but when I look out here, I see so many people that made all of our work possible. So just to thank a few of the key stakeholders, one is the executive committee. And enough can't be said about the executive committee providing the oversight and service on behalf of our research agenda. And I really want to thank the 3 departing members for their years of service, Abe, Fran, and Melanie. I also want to thank the board, and many of you in this room are coming off the board or have served on the board or are coming on the board. We thought about trying to identify all the board members over 40 years. It would be too long of a list. And that group is so tremendously important in supporting our work. I also want to thank our funders, and that's institutions, employers, individuals, and philanthropy. Here in Worcester, they're particularly generous, but so is the Barr Foundation in Boston. I just want to thank our partners in the press and elsewhere, like the Telegram, the Business Journal, WEC, the Community Foundation, Mass Inc., and Rappaport Institute. And I do want to close by thanking our government officials. You're going to hear shortly from past and present city managers about the value of our work and the partnership. And I want to commend all 3 of them and so many other government officials who openly provide data to the Bureau to do our work. We couldn't do it without that help. And knowing that our reports are independent and impartial and are meant to inform public deliberations and that of policymakers. We simply couldn't function without that partnership. I want to thank each of them, and I want to thank so many else in government who make our work possible. So over the 40 years, as you're going to hear from George, our work has evolved, but I think it's really important to note we always focus on the nonpartisan, non-political, and impartial research. Now, thanks to the leadership 20 years ago, we are regional. We do utilize innovative research techniques, including mapping, interactive dashboards, and visualizations. But we also continue to address timely topics, including some not foreseen 40 years ago. I feel very confident no one 40 years ago foresaw an analysis of cannabis revenue and what it did for area towns. So we're going to continue to move forward on those topics. Rest assured, as we move through our 41st year, we're going to continue to honor that mission to inform the public and policymakers by addressing issues both expected, like budgeting and federal funding and infrastructure, and unexpected. We will continue responding to emerging needs and opportunities and public deliberations. So before I leave the stage, two things. One is you're about to see a great short video highlighting perspectives from some key partners and founders, and I want to thank everyone participating in the video. And I also want to thank, next up will be Dr. Jochen Salfeld from AbbVie. We really appreciate AbbVie's support as a sponsor of this event. And I also just want to note, as a staff, it's a tremendous honor for all of us to have a literal award-winning research scientist reviewing our work, including on Prop 2.5 and so many other topics. So thank you. Most organizations do not make it 40 years. The Bureau was founded 40 years ago to do objective database research on some of the most complicated issues facing Greater Worcester. That's everything from broadband access during the pandemic, voting turnout, commuter rail. The Bureau was very far-sighted and visionary in calling for Massport to play a key role at Worcester Airport. The issues themselves will change, but the importance of the work does not.
We started with one electric typewriter. It was really quite an adventure. What we would always say is, here are the facts, and here's the conclusion that we draw, that the Research Bureau draws from this.
The Research Bureau's work isn't about headlines, it's about the hard work that occurs to create change or create policy. The real success of the Research Bureau is when people take the results of its research, the reports, the various forums that the Research Bureau puts on, and they start talking.
One of the things that the Research Bureau's work does is hold us all accountable by presenting the facts in a clear, non-histrionic manner so that it can engage people in a real conversation.
The Research Bureau serves in many ways as a silent partner that's there to amplify and elevate other people.
It allows us to foster the kind of creativity and innovation and accountability to impact that otherwise wouldn't happen.
The Worcester Research Bureau has helped enormously in bringing people together. I would say thank you for all that you have done to contribute to making our community better. You've made a real difference, and you should be proud of the work that you've done.
I wish the Research Bureau another great 40 years here in the region and making an impact. They're in tune to what's going on in the city of Worcester, and that's so important.
Congratulations on the 40th anniversary. Continue to push the conversation, continue to dig in deep to the research. Collectively, together as a team, we're able to move the city forward for our residents, our visitors, and the people that come to the city.
The Research Bureau is an essential organization and entity in our community. I hope that it continues to grow and thrive and continues to be one. I would only hope that this work continues to be the standard of how we make decisions.
To think about the visions of the founders in 1985 and to think about how that's been carried out, we feel very fortunate that we have the level of support we do, where we've been able to do this work for 40 years.
We are now a very mature organization. That doesn't mean that we can rest on our laurels, but we can be proud of what we've done so far, and it sets the stage, I think, for the Research Bureau to continue to be an important part of the Worcester landscape.
I think it's a time to reflect when you've done something for 40 years. I'm hopeful that the city will continue to prosper and will be a home for everybody.
The work we do is one that helps illuminate Worcester's needs and Worcester's opportunities going forward. We're very honored to be part of that dialogue and that conversation, and we want to thank everyone who's made that possible.
If you ever wondered where AbbVie is, if you drive by Belmont Street to the right, we are a world-class discovery and manufacturing site. So every report I read, I learn a tremendous amount about the city, the needs. I live in Grafton. I didn't know that much about governing in Grafton. Every report I read is really, really super insightful. So while we heard from our chair and executive director about the Bureau's work over the last year, that video really took it home, didn't it? It really showed the impact and the value of the work of the Bureau for 40 years. But let me tell you, now we are fortunate to hear even more how this all began from the founding chair, George Tetler, who is also a fellow member of the executive committee and our long-term treasurer of the Bureau. So George, we really look forward to hear from you. How did this start to become such an important part of the citizen life here in Worcester?
Thank you, Jochen. How well have I aged? I think pretty well, actually. 1985 was an extraordinary year in the city of Worcester. In preparing for my remarks today, I did a AI search, and I used this as the search, City of Worcester 1985 history on Google. Interestingly, the first sentence of that AI search references the Research Bureau, 1985. And I think it's worth reading that search result. And this is a direct quote. In 1985, Worcester's economy was still dealing with the fallout from decades of deindustrialization, but there were also signs of new developments, such as the establishment of the Worcester Regional Research Bureau, a nonpartisan public policy research organization. The second sentence, worth reading, I think, is that the city's largest employer, Norton Company, was a global enterprise with 3,400 employees in Worcester. Imagine that. Out of a total of 19,000 employees worldwide. The AI search went on to say that Worcester was in the midst of an economic downturn caused by the decline of its manufacturing base and was struggling with the effects of Proposition 2.5, which constrained the city's municipal budget. And then, and this is a direct quote, it said, the founding of the Worcester Regional Research Bureau in 1985 marked a significant effort by business leaders to support more effective municipal government through independent research. Amazing what AI can do. Indeed, 1985 was a time of great transition for the city. City government's capacity to conduct research was a victim of the budget cuts flowing from Proposition 2.5. Franny McGraw, who had been city manager for 34 years, had just retired and a new city manager had taken office. There were several new development initiatives underway, the most important of which, and the most lasting of which, was the Massachusetts Biotechnology Research Park on the grounds of the former Worcester State Hospital and where AbbVie is located. For the rock music fans in the audience, and particularly the oldies crowd, I know not everybody here is an oldies fan, the Centrum, which we now call the DCU Center, had an amazing year in 1985, and that was actually the second thing that the AI research produced. It hosted 40 concerts, ranging from Aerosmith, Bon Jovi, Phil Collins in Chicago, to Liza Minnelli and Luciano Pavarotti, who performed on New Year's Eve in 1985 to a capacity audience. It was in that transitional time that the Research Bureau was founded by civic and community leaders to provide the community with nonpartisan objective research on issues and problems facing the city. The initial group that met to form the Research Bureau were pillars of the business community of that time. Fairman Cowan, General Counsel of Norton Company, Bob Bowditch, Senior Partner at Bowditch & Dewey, Paul Morgan, CEO of Morgan Construction, and Joe Carter, the CEO of Wyman Gordon Company. They let a few younger people in the room, and some of us are still alive to talk about it. In fact, all of us are. Flip Morgan, who couldn't be here with us today, Dee Moskos and Roberta Schaefer were in that room, as well as I. Any one of those elder statesmen in the broader business community could easily have been selected to serve as the first president of the Research Bureau. To their great credit, they chose the next generation to take the helm. I believe I became the first president of the Research Bureau and served in that role for 5 years and have continued serving on and off for many years on the executive committee. Flip Morgan became vice president and Dee Moskos became clerk. It was truly a visionary moment for the city, I believe. Only a handful of cities, as Paul Matthews said in his remarks, have research bureaus. Boston was our model, but Syracuse, Philadelphia, and New Orleans also have research bureaus. Imagine how many cities do not have research bureaus and could benefit from the kind of things that we do here in Worcester. As a startup organization, there was a lot to do to get the Research Bureau off the ground. Joe Hagan, the president of Assumption College, offered the Bureau free office space, printing, and administrative support. An organizational meeting of business, banking, higher education, and healthcare leaders was convened, and all of those leaders pledged financial support of their organizations and agreed to serve on our initial board of directors. Roberta Schaefer was selected to serve as the first executive director of the Research Bureau. She served with distinction over 3 decades. Her tenure was full of great accomplishment, and during that time, the Bureau developed into the vibrant organization it is today. Many landmark reports were written, and I'll talk about a few of them in a moment. Under Roberta's tenure, the Thomas Green Awards were established to recognize distinguished service to the city of Worcester and surrounding municipalities by many unsung heroes. Over the years, the Green Awards have recognized 154 people who work in government in 12 municipalities, Worcester and many of the surrounding towns that are mentioned in your annual report. The Bureau also, during Roberta's tenure, initiated the Furman Cowan Award, given periodically at our annual meeting, to an individual who's provided outstanding service to either the Bureau or to the general public at large. Our most recent recipients are Harley Chandler and Karen Polito, who are recognized for bipartisan efforts to promote and advance the city of Worcester and the surrounding communities. When Roberta left, we found another treasure in the form of Tim McGurthy, 2014. Tim is now, of course, the current city treasurer, but he was appointed as our executive director in that time. Under his tenure, the Bureau launched a municipal election candidate debate series with the assistance of the Telegram and Gazette, and also launched a State of the City address by the city manager, and that has become a singular event for the Research Bureau and the community at large. There were also many other reports and accomplishments during Tim's tenure with the Bureau. In 2019, Paul Matthews was appointed executive director when Tim went off for a cabinet-level position in state government before he became city treasurer. Under Paul's tenure, the Research Bureau has worked collaboratively with the Worcester Education Collaborative, with Greater Worcester Community Foundation, and with the Health Foundation. And there are many initiatives associated with those collaborative efforts, including the Worcester County Indicators Regional Data Dashboard, and the Free Bus Fare Initiative, which has become a model nationally for how to deal with public transportation. Over the course of over 40 years, the Bureau has issued, it's an astonishing number, 344 reports and publications, including our almanac. That is a lot of production and a lot of accomplishment. The Bureau has also conducted or participated in more than 300 events, including forums, which I believe many in the room have attended, on important and timely topics facing the city. And the Bureau has also received more than 20 national and regional awards for its work. It's difficult to single out any one report, but there are a handful that I think are truly landmark. And Paul mentioned one of them, and I will mention a few others. A report recommending the governance of this Worcester Vocational High School be transferred to the Worcester School Committee, and that the new Worcester Technical High School, the award-winning technical high school, be built without a project labor agreement. A report recommending the sale of Worcester Regional Airport to Massport was issued in 1993, and the city completed its sale to Massport in 2010. We were prescient, and we pushed that agenda over the course of that 17-year period between our report and the actual accomplishment of that objective. A report recommending the city create an assistant city manager for economic development in 1998, and the city implemented that recommendation a few years later. And Peter Dunn is here to hold that position, and it's an important position. Peter's been doing great work for the city. Our reports also feature analysis of city and school committee budgets on an annual basis, and those have become important information for the dialogue leading to how the city spends its money and how and where it should focus its financial priorities. There are many individuals who've served as board chairs, and they are here with some of them are here with us today. I'd like to ask them to stand and be recognized, if they would. Eric Schultz is here. Sandy Dunn, who has already been recognized. Sandy. Fran Madigan. Abe Haddad. Abe. John Spillane in the room, I hope. Mike Mulrain, I think, is here. And Karen Duffy, who may be here. I don't know if she is. There are innumerable members of the board of, and former members of the board of directors, and like Fran, I won't get into names because we'd be here all night. But thank you very much for your service. Our staff is the engine that makes the Research Bureau run so effectively. The Bureau has been extraordinarily well served by its current and former staff members, including our current and former executive directors. Many of our researchers have gone on to other important positions in government, higher education, and research organizations, including positions at the Harvard Business School, Assumption College, the Pioneer Institute, the Manhattan Institute, UMass Chan Medical School, University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, and many others. The annual meeting is a highlight of our calendar, and it has been from the beginning. The meeting focuses on issues of the day and also emerging issues, and has featured many prominent speakers over the years. We've had governors, Mitt Romney, Ed King, Paul Cellucci. We've had 2 Massachusetts Senate presidents, Billy Bulger, believe it or not, and Tom Birmingham. 2 mayors of Boston, Ray Flynn and Tom Menino. The director of the National Science Foundation, Francis Collins, and last year's speaker, Susan Collins, CEO of the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. The meeting this year features a panel of current and former city managers of the city of Worcester. And I think we're all very excited to hear that, that panel discussion. City manager, Plan E form of government, in my opinion, has served the city extremely well since its adoption almost a century ago. And I think as we listen to our current and former city managers, we will get a sense that that the city manager form of government has served the city very well and works to the benefit of the entire community. So with that, I am pleased to introduce the moderator of today's panel, Kimberly Salmon, president of the Hanover Insurance Foundation, Group Foundation, and a longtime supporter of the Bureau. Kimberly, I'll let you introduce our panelists.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank the Worcester Regional Research Bureau for inviting me to moderate tonight's panel discussion with 3 Worcester's past and present city managers. Also, fun fact, I do put my trash out the night before, just in case anyone wanted to know. Tonight is historic. This is the first time these 3 leaders have sat down together at the same event to reflect on their tenures. And here's another milestone. 2025 marks the 75th anniversary of Worcester adopting the city manager form of government, beginning with Everett Merrill in 1950. Did you guys know that? No. Worcester introduced the city manager system in 1950 to bring professional management to city government. The city manager is appointed by the city council and oversees day-to-day operations, everything from public safety to infrastructure. Since 1950, Worcester has had 7 city managers and 26 mayors. I thought that was a fun fact, too. During that time, the city has transformed dramatically, from an industrial decline of the mid-20th century to the revitalization we see today. Think about the changes. The Canal District was once a forgotten part of the city, and now it's home to Polar Park and a thriving restaurant scene. Kelly Square, once infamous for its chaotic traffic patterns, now has a rotary that symbolizes progress and planning and an 8. These shifts don't happen overnight. They were shaped by leadership and collaboration. Today, the city manager oversees nearly 1,941 employees across 7 municipal departments, excluding Worcester Public Schools. It's a role that requires vision and coordination, especially as Worcester continues to grow as the 2nd largest city in New England. So with that, I'm honored to introduce our esteemed panelists. Their full bios are in that program that you received so that you can reference. So we're going to start. City Manager Eric Batista, Worcester's current city manager and appointed in 2022. Right next to me. Don't be scared. Secretary Augustus, now Secretary of Housing and Livable Communities, who served as city manager from 2014 to 2022. And former city manager Michael O'Brien, executive vice president at Wynn Companies, who served as city manager from 2004 to 2014. Thank you so much for being here. I'm honored to be on the stage with all of you. I got to kind of bug you when you were in your offices, so you guys remember me. Remember that, close. But this is really an incredible opportunity. So tell me, during your tenure or in your current role, what was the most impactful subject the Worcester Regional Research Bureau researched? That was a tongue twister. How did it influence your work? And what do you see as the Bureau's value to the city? We're going to start with former city manager O'Brien.
Thank you. It's great to be here as the ghost of Christmas past. And I want everybody to know that I am in demand for my wisdom and my experience as city manager. This is the second time I've been asked to speak on my tenure, so you can see that demand.
I just wanted to say you aged backwards since. Just want to give you credit.
The Research Bureau is a kind of bedrock foundation of the community and the work that we do in city government. You need perspective in the roles of city manager. You need input and data. And you've got a talented team around you to do that work. But external is as important as internal feedback. And so I can remember a report as we were trying to do thoughtful work and realigning the city government is whose call is it anyways? And this was about the response to emergencies, and did we need to roll fire engines as well as ambulances to every single call? And it was part of the debate and dialogue around this as we thought of how costly it was to run fire engines to every call and how it increased the likelihood of some injury among our employees and otherwise. And so I would say that the Research Bureau's effect on city government, certainly over my tenure, was being able to provide that type of data and information, unbiased, as was said earlier. So it added to the conversation, added to the discussion and the debate.
Thank you. I remember that time. I think that, just how important that decision was and how it was responsive to, emergencies that we were seeing in the city. We were getting people seen quicker. Emergencies were being responded to fast. I remember that. Secretary Augustus, what about you?
Let me just echo the thanks for the opportunity to be here today. It's amazing to be here with these two gentlemen. Congratulations to the Bureau on 40 years. It's incredible. You've been around since before I was born, so it's something that's an amazing milestone. And certainly I've appreciated the partnership in my time as city manager, even in other roles that I've had over the years in the work that the Research Bureau has done. I'd highlight maybe two reports. One on the fire department. Similarly, one of the worst parts of my time as city manager were two line of deaths in the fire department. That followed one that happened during Mike's time, and then of course the warehouse fire where we lost 6 firefighters. That's an astronomical number of firefighters for a city this size to lose in that period of time. And we really needed to get our arms around what else could and should we be doing in order to make an inherently dangerous job as less dangerous as humanly possible. And so the Research Bureau, I think, provided a lot of good guidance that allowed us to go forward pursuing accreditation and making some changes that I think have allowed the fire department to continue to be an effective part of our emergency response system here in Worcester, but hopefully taken some of the danger out of a very dangerous profession. And secondly, I'd say parking, which is maybe less kind of dramatic, but very important. And there's always conversations about parking. Worcester in particular, somebody who grew up here, we love to talk about parking. We want to have our parking spot in front of wherever we want to go, and we want it to be free. And so anytime there's a challenge to that, there's a big conversation around parking. And we had that conversation when we were talking about the possibility of Polar Park, because everybody said, oh my God, there's no parking in the Canal District. There's no parking anywhere. And we, working with the Research Bureau, identified about 6,000 parking spots within a quarter-mile radius of Polar Park, which hopefully reminded people that walking a little bit wasn't the worst thing in the world, and it might actually support some of the retail and some of the businesses along that walk. And those walks create the sense and the reality of safety and security and vibrancy on streets. And so I think that helped both the city council as we were discussing Polar Park and how it would work and whether it would work, and the folks in the Canal District and downtown, that the development and parking related issues would be not the problem that people were worried about.
Absolutely. City Manager Batista.
First of all, just same thing that they've echoed. I want to echo again to Paul Kelly, Paul Matthews, and the leadership of the Research Bureau. Thank you for having us. As you know, it's historic for us to be here, and we're extremely excited. And so for me, it's been more so the report that was done about the schools. the infrastructure of the schools, and the importance of how do you financially structure your finances to pay for that. And right now, as we going through very tough economic times, inflation, costs, you name it, everything, is how do we figure out a way to build or maintain and sustain some of our current infrastructure. And I think, understanding that and having an outside perspective, and then having the Bureau play a role at the state level to advocate, to bring that voice, it plays a big role, because oftentimes we feel like we're by ourselves kind of championing or fighting the good fight. And when we talk about finances and resources, and they become limited. And we as city managers, our job is to always be good stewards of those dollars and try to make sure that we're keeping our minds focused on on the utilization of those dollars. And so reports like that help us and guide us to provide some strategy, some perspective. So as we look at the bigger picture about the importance of our young people, the youth, right? Because people don't move. Yes, it's great to have all these economic growth, but people still want good schools. And the schools matter. And so we want to provide the safety in our schools in an environment that kids can learn. And so I think that, to me, was a great report, because it's, as you can see, it's continued that advocacy with the other state partners at the state level to seek more funding for that.
And it's interesting, we'll get to that a little bit later, how each of you during your 10 years as city managers, you built new schools for our district, which were transformative for them. Our North High School, our Trade, our South Doherty. I mean, we've seen so much change already, and in the importance of how that report helped to inform that and get those dollars, because those are not inexpensive buildings, right? No. So on that note, former city manager, during your time from 2004 to 2014, Worcester saw major downtown redevelopment in the early stages of the Canal District revival. What were your biggest challenges of that period, and how did you address them?
So if you looked at Worcester back in 2004, city government, there had been some tumult. City manager was asked to no longer serve, and I was asked to come in as an acting city manager, so a member of the Actors Union. Yeah. And at that point in time, there was kind of a rudderless focus on who we are and what we are and what we can be, and embrace every single one of those. And so there was work to be done. First, we had to get the city finances in order. And that was a lot of work. We had lived through a period of kind of boom and bust. And over that time, those budget cycles created real strain, 6-month views out, and the like. So getting that set was important, because if you want to project success, if you want to project opportunities to others, you have to be able to point to the fact that city government's here, it's stable, and certainly ready for business. And that took a lot of work. And you have to kind of walk as you chew gum. So we were in the process of, meeting with people from New York that wanted to develop in the city early in my tenure. And I can just give you a case in point. When I sat in my office, I asked, could I see, a map of downtown so I can point some of these issues out? And I was given maybe a 12 by 12 picture in a frame where the grass was cracked, and I had to put that down in front of New York investors to say, come to Worcester. Kind of scary. Yeah. And so with that, we really did work on our game and making sure that we could convey that sense of success and progress and also stability. Then economic development in downtown, everybody would say that the former mall was a deterrent, visual, intellectually, and psychology-wise. And so something had to be done. And that was a big undertaking, right? What are you going to do with the future there? And I would say that the community didn't have a lot of confidence. And that's from many years of what was discussed earlier, boom bust, economy changes, and the like. And so that whole process started with, then Mayor Murray, with a reach out to Cigna to say, let's do a developer RFP and get some people interested in this thing. Even during that time, people were like, nothing's going to happen. And so you had to convey that sense of confidence. You had to continue to work with the community. You had to build relationships and get people excited. And through time and through lots of people's work, it takes a village. That signal of that mall, which kind of stuck in people's mind in downtown, we were able to put together in really tough economic times in 2007 and 2008, a plan to have that demolished and what you see out there today happen. And it wouldn't happen without the state that was involved, Jim McGovern in the federal level, and then city government really taking an active role, as well as the community, to say, let's get this done. And I would say that was a signal to the world that we get it, that we can do big things and small things, and ultimately get things done. And so that was, to me, where downtown started to factor in this idea of building blocks, of catalyst areas, and ultimately creating, enough movement, enough positive progress to see others take a close look at Worcester. And I would say from my development side, after my years as city manager, is good money follows good money. Mm-hmm. And people are looking for solid investments, and their money's green everywhere. So they want to go to where they can actually do something and create opportunities for themselves as well as for the community. So I think that about sums up the period of 2004 to 14. Lots of other things happened, but that was probably the biggest.
Well, I think what I hear is courage, trust, collaboration, and vision. That you had to have that, and you brought that forward. You brought our community together. You opened doors. You made us see the possibility. And wow, look at it now.
Yeah, there was a bit of insanity mixed in there.
I mean, yeah, of course, a little insanity. Secretary Augustus, on that note, your tenure included opening of Polar Park and the significant investment in housing and schools. What were the challenges, and how did you navigate that?
I think one of the points that Mike made is an important one, because I think we confronted it, but maybe a little less so by the time Polar Park's opportunity rolled around. Again, having grown up in Worcester, I remember a lot of almost like self-deprecation that was almost in the water in Worcester. Like, it'll never happen here. It won't work here. And there were psychological kind of barriers that Worcester had to get over. For the longest time, Union Station, you drive by 290, it had no roof. It was a condemned building, and it was a symbol of an era that had gone by. And it was kind of a reminder every day of what had been, but what wasn't in the current day. For a long time, the airport similarly didn't have airlines servicing the airport. It was just another reminder. And so along the way, all of the different efforts by a lot of people, some on the stage, many in this room, had to overcome each of those psychological barriers so Worcester could kind of lift itself up and say, you know what, we're the second largest city in New England. Of course we can do this. We can chase something, we can pursue it, and it's not like it's luck, or we have the ability to attract the kind of investment and development. And I think that's hopefully the spirit that we brought to pursuing Polar Park. Now, there were some people who said, oh, Worcester got played 20 years before when there was some conversation about the possible relocation of the Pawtucket Red Sox to Worcester. Whether or not that was true then, it was a different ownership group, it was a different period of time, Worcester was in a different place. And I have to give the city credit. I rarely have seen the city come together in such a unified way. 10,000 postcards came from just average people in the city of Worcester signing those postcards saying, hey, we want you to think about coming here. We had the city council unanimously vote to ask me to do everything I could to chase the opportunity. We had the business community, about 100 people who signed a letter, college presidents, business leaders, talking about how they endorsed this effort and would support the team if it relocated. We were able to build an alliance with the state where Governor Baker here at the DCU said, we're going to back Worcester's effort and provide some significant state dollars behind that effort. And it was just the alignment. And we had 18 communities around New England who were chasing that team at that time. Nobody had that unanimity. Nobody had that kind of unanimous support from the community. And that was a card that was very important for us as we sat down with Lucchino and the ownership group and talk about the benefits of Worcester and why it would make sense to relocate here to the city of Worcester. So I think, you can never get unanimous anything, but to the extent that you can build a coalition that is as representative of all of the different facets and parts of our community, I think is just so much power behind that, and I think differentiated ourselves from other communities. And that was partly because we had overcome some of those earlier barriers where people didn't think we could do it, and then we did it. And then hopefully we had a sense of, hey, this is Worcester's time, Worcester can do it.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I did put my bucket to keep my parking space over in the parking. It is so accessible.
Yeah.
All of the, is this really going to happen? It is the most beautiful thing to come drive down Vernon Hill and just to see the change in the skyline. Just our city, born and raised in Worcester my whole life, left to do work and have different experiences, but you always come home. And the wonderful thing about Worcester is that it's changed, it's evolved, and it is beautiful. We had a mall that, we used to be Galleria, used to go there when I was a kid, and then it just changed, and it's accessible and it's beautiful. So I thank you so much for that, just to have that vision, have that thought. It really is, for me, I love Worcester. It's my city, and I'm proud of it because of all of the changes that you've helped lead for us. So I don't know if anyone said that, but I want you guys to know that I am proud of this city because of the changes you've made. So on that note, City Manager Batista, you've led during a time of rapid growth and increasing diversity. What are your current challenges, and what solutions do you think you can bring forward?
It's a great question. It's a big one. I had the pleasure, I was hired by Mike O'Brien, and I served under Mike O'Brien for a couple of years, and then I served during Augustus' entire tenure. So I had the opportunity, the pleasure, the privilege to witness all of this. I was there at the ribbon cutting of Front Street, opening it up when we had all the antique cars coming through, and it was freezing cold. Freezing cold. I remember that day. I remember the groundbreaking of Polo Park, and I remember all the conversations and all the fights and everything that's happened in between to understand, right, what's the equation? How do we put this? What's the formula to make this happen, and get the city moving and forward? And from what I've learned and what I've seen from them, is not more so about them. It's more so about how they leveraged all of you, because all of you who are sitting here, from the higher ed community to the commercials to the bank industry, all of you have played a significant role in City Square, and Polo Park, and the whole development and everything that's it's all of you who had participated in that. And that's where, for me, is during these times of challenges where we're navigating all types of challenges, housing has become number one crisis, right? We have a former city manager who left city manager to become Secretary of Housing. Now, housing crisis, I said, are you a masochist or something? Why would you do that to yourself? Leave city manager
Fantastic question.
to be the Secretary of Housing when during housing. And so, one of the things is housing, right? How do we build more housing? How do we provide better access and opportunity for growth and development in housing in the city and all the different levels of housing? But it's not just housing, right? We can't just be a bedroom community. How do we also provide space for the commercial to develop in the city and bring biomanufacturing, bring the life sciences into our city to create the jobs that we need for the people to be well employed and have the good salaries to live in the city, right? And so those are the things that right now we're trying to understand and create a vision for that. We have a big mammoth in the city that I'm gonna put out there. It's the Worcester Auditorium, right? And as he had the mall, which by the way I worked at Lids Fashion Outlets. He had the mall to deal with. He had acres of land that were extremely contaminated for 20 plus years that he had to deal with. We have an auditorium that we need to address, and it's an area that we need to put our focus as a community, because if we don't, we're going to lose that building, right? And if this is something that we as a city are committed to in preserving the history of who we are as a community and everything that has happening in that building, is how do we put together a plan, a strategy to address Lincoln Square, the auditorium, et cetera, et cetera. So that's an area that we're planning for, we're strategizing, we're thinking through of City Square. It provides an opportunity, a gateway to WPI and all the work that WPI is doing there, to the Gateway Park that's done, the work that MCPHS has done in the area. It provides an opportunity for us to continue to develop the life sciences and the biomanufacturing in the city. But in the midst of that, there are people in the city that are really hurting. That are really hurting. We had to, move very quickly to address issues around SNAP in the city. Rents are increasing in the city. There are significant issues that our people in our cities are dealing with, ICE in our communities, right? And so those are the things that right now, as a city manager, you have to adapt. You got to move quickly. You got to depend and rely on community perspective and ideas and conversations to figure out how do you move, what are the things that you have to do to leverage the state and go to the state and say, hey, I need more money for housing, and utilize other partners, whether it's the federal government and others. So those are the kind of the challenges that we're facing today, but it's also the opportunities of what we can do in the future, of what's the next, right? For me is what's the next area that Worcester wants to redevelop, focus on, what's that vision? And right now, the area that, through the leadership of Peter Dunn and all the work that he is doing for the city, is trying to think, how do we preserve the auditorium? And and there's many people in this room who are playing a significant role right now in helping us think through that and process and look at the numbers and state governments and federal governments and utilizing the current governor to help us, support us, to try to get us through that hurdle. And I think that's the beauty of it. So again, it all comes down, if you see the common denominator, it all comes down to all of you, because all of you play the role for us to be able to do what we do as city managers.
That's an incredible kind of perspective, is to understand through your eyes what you see. So it's not just about the development of this city and making sure that we keep our historical buildings vibrant and here. It's not just, continuing to think about the vision forward, but it's about today. You have to think about today while you're still looking towards tomorrow. So I think that's just an important perspective that we don't think about when we see you in your roles. You're running this city. You're trying to, push things forward. But when we have a SNAP issue, you guys showed up. You had to show up as a city, and I don't know if everyone realized the role you played in making sure that, when SNAP benefits were cut, families were able to get access to food during those difficult times. At the same time, you were probably meeting to talk about Burncoat High School. Burncoat High School, Worcester Auditorium. I graduated. My graduation was held there. It was such a beautiful place. It was so nice. So yes, we should restore that just for me. We got to think about that. But no, I think that's important, just to see the view is when you're not just sitting in that office trying to keep the city moving forward and making sure that our municipalities are functioning and doing what they need to do, but you're thinking about everyone who lives here, who wants to stay here, who wants to raise their family here, and about the future here, our children, and what their future looks like, where there's opportunities, where there's pathways, and we want to keep them here. We've got some great colleges. We want them to stay here, so this is really important. So I just want you guys to humor me. I was told that I had to wrap up. I only got through one question. And if you look at this, look who we have up on the stage. Do you guys want me to take 10 more minutes or just ask one more question, like a closing question on what they might think about the future of our city and how the Worcester region, you guys give me 10 more minutes? Oh my God, I love you guys. So we're gonna just cut right to the final question. This is such an opportune time. If you guys want to do this again, we can schedule it. Big stage. Just let me know. Who can moderate that? So, looking ahead, what's your hope for Worcester's future, and how can the Worcester Regional Research Bureau help make that vision a reality? I'm going to start with former City Manager O'Brien.
Well, thank you. As to the future, I would say that Worcester quality, the quality of the community, the quality of the collaboration, the quality of the diversity, all those factors are just amazing. And since my work as city manager, which I was blessed to do, I'm all over the country, and I'm in places where city councils are literally swearing at each other across a room during public meetings. I'm in rooms where the higher ed community doesn't even speak to the city. And so you recognize what a special place it is when you get the perspective of the rest of the world. And so Worcester's future is bright, very bright. And I think it's building on those same building blocks we talked about, and paying attention to med and eds, because they're under a great deal of strain right now, and there's going to be some evolution of that strain, and much of the local economy is based on that. And so that's going to be something to pay attention to. I think the proximity to the suburb to the east, Boston, is important, and it needs to be embraced, because there's that connection now. People are recognizing the value of Worcester for all it has, its cultural offerings, its quality of life, and they may work in Boston 3 days a week, but they're able to live out here on a salary and be able to live and not be under great strain because it's a lower cost of living, but be able to get into Boston 3 days a week on commuter rail. That's going to continue, and it's going to happen by the very nature of population growth, the fact that the word's out about Worcester, and I think that's something that's going to be part of that positive future, is the glow of the capital city of Massachusetts, but also the reality of the second largest city having its act together and offering so much to those that may be working outside of Worcester, but able to live here, and for companies to be able to lower their costs from what might be a Boston address to a Worcester address, where they can actually use that to help please their stockholders, to end up with a better employee base that's not exhausted for sitting in the traffic for an hour and 45 minutes and only going 20 miles. I'm convinced in my commute that I can get there quicker on Slothback because of how bad the traffic is. So there's a lot to be said about that in Worcester. So, I think the future's bright. It's my favorite city of all. And I would tell you that the word's out. So I've been in meetings in Buffalo, New York. I've been in meetings in North Carolina where the Worcester's name comes up. And I think that's testament to the work that's been done by everybody and what the future holds. And it's almost like the Worcester miracle in the fact that we came together, we worked together, and we set a course, and we've achieved things, and there are great things to come.
Yeah, I love that perspective, is having a view that's beyond Worcester to see how great Worcester is. Sometimes you have to look beyond where we are to see all of the accomplishments. I know when I'm in Detroit and when I'm in any of our other field offices, we have like 37 field offices, and every time I come back to Worcester, I appreciate where we are and how far we've come. So I really appreciate that view, because I think that really does show where we're going. Secretary Augustus.
I think Worcester's future is bright. I think people are voting with their feet. The fact that we are one of the fastest growing cities in New England and even in the Northeast is testimony. People don't move to cities that they think are going in the wrong direction. They don't move to cities they think are unsafe. They don't move to cities that they don't think there's a good quality of life or a good quality of education. So the fact that our population continues to rise and projections are that at the next census it's going to continue to rise even further, I think is validation that Worcester is on the move. It's not just a slogan. There were a lot of slogans 20, 30, 40 years ago about Worcester on the move. They weren't true. I think it's demonstrably true now, the fact that we've added so much population. And that is an opportunity, but it's also a challenge. It's an opportunity because when you get more people, more density, you can attract more retail, more business, more attention. But I think one of the things that distinguishes Worcester is I've always called it a Goldilocks community. It's big enough that it has colleges, it has hospitals, it has museums and cultural institutions, it has family foundations, it has a lot of things that smaller communities don't. But it's small enough that when you really need to get something done, you can get the right people around the table or on the phone or in a meeting and say, hey, we're going to chase Polar Park. Or we've got a global pandemic that we don't know how this is going to turn out. We need to rally the community together and to figure out how to prop up different institutions and meet immediate needs, and we're able to do that. And so that's what's special about Worcester, I think, our size, but what we have in this community. And I think the only thing that threatens Worcester's future is ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I would just urge us as a community to figure out, we can have vigorous debates. We've always had vigorous debates since the first founding of the city. That's okay. It's okay to disagree, but we got to find a way to do it in a civil way that respects the other opinion and doesn't divide the community. Because I think, again, going back to my Polar Park analogy or our response to COVID or, the city coming together around SNAP, any of that, we need to be able to rally together when the moment calls for it or when the opportunity presents itself. That's what's special about Worcester. So as we grow and expand, let's not lose what's so special about the city.
Oh, I agree. We really are a small, tight community, and when we really want to make something happen and get something done, when we come together, we can do it. So we're the only ones who stand in our way. So I appreciate that. That is so true. Thank you. Thank you for that. City Manager Batista?
The Worcester today and the Worcester of tomorrow will rely on exactly what Ed just said. And I'm just going to a little bit of echo that, but add a little bit more. It's going to rely on all of us, again, willing to roll up our sleeves and go to work, respect one another and the differences of opinions and thoughts, and try to get to work. There is one of the challenges about Worcester. There's a good thing and a bad thing. Is the growth that we've had, right? Because when Worcester has grown so fast, it means that it demands so much more of the municipality and the overall as a city. Our long-range master plan and our housing production plan both have a prediction or an estimate that by 2040, Worcester would have a growth of more than close to 60,000 more people in the city. Just think about that. Where are we going to fit 60,000 more people in the city? In the 2020 census, it showed that we had about roughly 25,000 to 30,000 more people came to the city. And we know we're already lagging behind on housing. We need to produce roughly 12,000 units by 2033 to meet the demand, right? At all levels, affordable, et cetera. And we have to be able to do that. And how do we do that if we're going to get there by 2040 with 60,000 more people? That's going to require strong leadership. It's going to require collaboration. And it's going to require all of us to roll up our sleeves, go to work, respect one another, and do the work that needs to be done to see the city grow and prosper the way it needs to. Because a lot of the work that has to happen in this community doesn't happen without its economic growth, the tax base. Mm-hmm. I was having a conversation previously with former Commissioner of DPW, the legend, Bob Moylan, and he said that he remembers his time when the city's budget was only $200 million. This year, we're inching $1 billion. $1 billion.
I mean, I feel like that's progress and something we should clap about too. That's
growth. That's growth. Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Wow.
Tim is doing a great job managing that. But that just shows the growth of this city. Mm-hmm. That the tax base is increasing year over year, year over year. And again, every revenue that comes in, it goes out, right? And so again, the future is bright for this community, But it doesn't happen, and it won't continue without all of us continuing that path, working together as partners, making sure that we have and we understand what the North Star is.
So thank you. Thank you all, because this was an incredible conversation to have. I love your vision. I love what you brought forward to bring us to where we are today. I love the comment about that we are going to not always agree on everything, and that's okay. I think that's so critically important if we want to move forward, is that we don't always have to agree. We just have to get to the other side. And sometimes that means you got to ruffle a few feathers, but when we get to the other side, you get to see $1 billion budget. I mean, right? That's how we get there. So thank you. Thank you so much. I didn't talk as much about the Worcester Regional Research Bureau, but I think we all understand that their work was informed by that progress. Those reports helped to take us to those next levels so that we could have those informed discussions, so that we could have those arguments and say, I hear you, but let's just look at the research, which might help to propel us to that next level. So I just want to say thank you, because we couldn't do this work and have this progress without Worcester Regional Research Bureau. So thank you. So thank you for that 40 years of advocacy and advancing us, and thank you, because this city is what it is because of you. I just want you to know I am so thankful for you and your leadership.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to express a heartfelt thanks to our speakers, George Tetler, Kim Salmon, Eric Batista, Mr. O'Brien, and Ed Augustus for such an insightful discussion, a memorable discussion on the city, as well as the Bureau. Now, as I step into the role of the chairmanship, I'd like to begin my first exercise by recognizing Paul Kelly for such a splendid work you did and your dedicated contributions. Would you mind joining me so that I can present to you the official Worcester Research Bureau Chair? And lastly, but not the least, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight, and also to our generous sponsors for supporting tonight's celebration. And as we mark the Bureau's 40th anniversary, I officially close the 40th annual meeting until we meet again next year, 2026. With that said, the bar is open and for refreshments, so please stick around. Thank you.